Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's Dr. Eric Nepute. Hope you're having a blessed day today. Hey, I'm really excited to share with you the BioLimitless app. For those of you that don't have the app, go to biolimitless.life. That's biolimitless.life. You can download the app there on the Apple Store, Android Store as well. It is the cornerstone key component of really the self-care cornerstone of the ecosystem is the DNA Discovering Wellness Kit. If self-care is the real healthcare, this test that you can do will give you more information than most people have ever gotten in the last 20 years combined from their functional medicine doctors. So I'm excited to go through this test a little bit today with you. What I want to do is just kind of give you an overview of what to look at, kind of where you're at, and just real kind of general. So if you look at this, the top left, the first reading there, it says DNA results. If you click on that DNA results, it's going to pull up a page for you. And I've got the page pulled up on my phone right now. So I think it needs to be refreshed on the screen. Perfect. Okay. Yep. There we go. So you can see when I scroll up and down on this, it gives you a kind of an overview. This is your summary sheet, if you will, of what are the major SNPs, the single nucleotide polymorphisms, the dirty genes that your body's dealing with. And you can see, like, for me, it's real straightforward and simple. I have some issues with saturated fatty acids. I have a poor response to that. Yo-yo diets. I have a negative response to yo-yo diets. I have a B6 deficiency issue, selenium deficiency issue, which is a big deal because that one can cause cancer. I have a creatine. Creatine would be beneficial for me. I have beta alanine, and then I have an increased risk for diabetes. So this basically gives kind of a summary, if you will. Now, if you look while I'm on this spot, I can either scroll up and down by touching the top center circle, or I could literally click the button next to summary and it says diet. So I'm going to click on where it says diet, and now that's going to give me an overview. Now, if I go up and down, this tells me from a dietary standpoint of how do I respond to fats, carbs, proteins, and based off of that, will determine what type of food plan would be best for me. Like, for example, if you look at mine, I have a good response for carbohydrates. I have a poor response for saturated fats. So if I wanted to learn more about that, I would click that one. And then once I click that one, it would refresh the screen and it would say, okay, here are the genes that were measured, the FTO, the TCF7L2 gene. It talks a little bit about what saturated fats are, about their responses. It talks about the results. Then I click on recommendations. It talks about common outcomes for minimizing fats. And then I can look down here at the bottom and it gives me all the NIH.gov research that's out there that supports the action steps that are being, made on this. So if I go back again and I click on my diet, I go back to that page, I can see that carbohydrate response, fatty acid, saturated fat response, unsaturated fat. Like, look at me, like proteins, the fourth one down. I have a really huge response from protein. So again, here's the genes that were measured. Here's the results. Here's the recommendations based off of my genetic profile. And for me personally, this means that I should have a carnivore slash ketogenic type diet. So carnivore slash keto. How do I know that? Because my body has a great response to protein, has a really good response to unsaturated fats. Now, as far as carbohydrates go, it says I have a good response to it, but I want to know a little bit more about what kinds of carbohydrates. So I can go through here and read what carbs are best for me, when should I have them, etc. And just based off of this information, I can determine a diet plan, a lifestyle plan. Talks about how I handle sugar, overeating with sweets, bitter taste. There's even genes in here that tell you, do you have a high risk for snacks, and what's your metabolic set rate at, and what's your body's fat distribution, and how do you respond to the yo-yo diet? Like, look at mine. So my body, it says negative to my health, yo-yo diet, the second from last. Well, these are the genes that were measured, and it talks about what a yo-yo diet is. When it comes to obesity risk, successful weight management, it consists of two major components: initial weight loss and then keeping the weight maintained. Well, yo-yo dieting, and a lot of you have experienced this, where you'll go and you'll lose 10 or 15 pounds, but then within 3 months you'll gain that 15 pounds and then another 2 or 3 pounds on top of that. This will give us recommendations and suggestions on how to overcome those imbalances. I can also now go to the third component, which is the health component. If you look across the top here, there's summary, there's diet. Now I'm on health. Now it just talks about different health signals. How does caffeine affect my body? What's my genetic risk for bone density issues? What's my risk for genetic obesity? If you look and see mine, I have a really big genetic risk for type 2 diabetes, which makes sense because most of the individuals, especially on my mother's side of the family, suffers from sugar related issues. So that now tells me, okay, carbohydrates are okay for me because my diet page said it was okay, but I'm at a higher risk for diabetes. So if I'm going to have carbohydrates, they better be vegetables. And if I'm going to have fruit, they need to be low glycemic fruit, which are like berries. I can already tell that just from looking at this from a diet standpoint. Now, if I go and I look at my health risk, which is the fourth one from the left on my physical plan, it tells me a little bit about my physical overview. It talks a little bit about my muscle power, muscle stamina, my O2 usage, my anaerobic threshold, my recovery rate, a muscle mass, a risk of injury, and your soft tissue inflammatory response. So let's take a look at this. So for example, let's look at the first one, which is muscle power. So what does that one mean? So by the way, first of all, here are the genes that we measured in this. There's a list of about 8 to 10 different genes. It talks about muscle power is the ability to exert a certain level of power over a period of time. This analysis concentrates solely on maximal output. Well, why is this important? Well, this is important because based off of your understanding of your physical overview, like my muscle power is above normal. What does that mean if it's normal or above normal? That I would benefit from doing pushing of weights. Like me from my body would do really well with resistance training and higher levels of weight. I'll do better with lower reps, higher weight on those. Muscle stamina is pretty high. It says it's gifted, which is amazing, right? You still have to work those muscles. So that tells me that I could do heavier weights for higher reps to get a bigger burn for me. I personally, from my genetic aspect, I typically do 2 to 3 sets to failure on each exercise, and that's all I need to do. So I'll do low weight to get warmed up, and then I'll do 1 to 2 sets after that of higher weights for max repetitions to get my body going. Now, I also have a above average O2 usage, which means I don't need a lot of time to recover between my sets. So I can do, based off of that information, I could do higher weights, higher reps with lower downtime between each one to get a maximum result for me. If you look also, it talks about my anaerobic and my recovery rate. Well, I have a fast recovery rate, which means that I could work out one day and then have one day in between for rest, where others might need 2 or 3 days to recover between their workouts. So it really gives you a tremendous amount of information. And it also talks about, for example, at the bottom, how exercise affects your weight. Mine's a normal response, but there's a lot of people that are out there that they have a high response, which means the only way that they can truly burn weight and keep their metabolism reset is to actually follow the recommendations of doing more exercises. So it really tells us a tremendous amount of info. And then if I go to my DNA results and I look at my vitamins, it's the fifth one from the left. It gives me an idea from a genetic standpoint and a receptor standpoint of what my risk factors are for certain vitamins. Now, for example, if you have trouble reading where it says vitamin D, if you have trouble understanding that color graph and that bar, you can always click on it and it tells you what it means. So first of all, these are the genes that were measured. It says vitamin D, or the sunshine vitamin, which is actually a hormone, may have positive health benefits. Okay. It talks about how this would have health benefits for me from a testosterone standpoint, from a hormonal standpoint, and from an immune system standpoint. So it talks about how supplementing for this would be very important for me to utilize. It talks about recommended dosages. It talks about when to take it. And then there's all the PubMed research. It also talks about how adding this with other vitamins like boron, like vitamin K, like zinc, and like vitamin A are beneficial to our bodies. If you look, for me, I have normal risk for all of these. Okay. But I have a big increased risk if you go to the B6 deficiency. The B6 deficiency is a very big one because B6 is part of a family of vitamins that are essential for really for life. They provide a variety of health benefits, everything from energy to taking sugars and carbohydrates from your blood and burning them as fat. So getting this information is really essential. And when I started adding the recommended dose of vitamin B6 to my diet, I started sleeping better, my energy improved, and I was able to burn some fat as fuel as well. So you can get a really good idea from a receptor side of where you're at, vitamin risk, nutrient risk, and etc. So the DNA test kit is really powerful. The DNA results are going to give you an oversight of that. If you go down, that's your training app. And that training app is your workout plan. Now, you have to go through and you have to answer some questions, and you'll need to answer questions, and you can update those questions. But if you look at the top, it says, here's my plan. If I go to the next one, that's the overview of my physical exercise workout plan. It talks about when I should do it, how long my training sessions are. If I need to go and change some of my metrics, like I can go through and add or subtract those there. I can go here and look for my warm-up exercises that I should be doing based off of my own genetic risk. And again, if I don't know these exercises, I can simply click on the exercise and I can play the video that's on here. So very powerful tool. Then you can actually go to injury prevention based off of your own genetic risk. Like me personally, I have a higher genetic risk for Achilles issues, back issues, and knee issues. So you'll see that the exercises here reflect that. And then you can break this down into more details: lower body injury prevention, whole body home injury prevention plan. And then you can go back to your plan, and you can look at, like for me, here's week 1. If I click on week 1, it says I should work out Monday, off a day on Wednesday, on Thursday, off a few days. There's week 2, week 3, week 4. So I can click on what exercises I should be doing, how I should be doing, and I can go back in. Again, if I don't know my exercises, I can watch the video on how to do those. And you can add these to any and all of your exercise training that you're currently doing as well. Additionally, if you go and you look, it can show the virus risk load. So it looks, it can show the risk. It can show your DNA diet. You'll have to fill out some questions. Now, mine was actually on for, I wanted to do a 30-pound weight loss. So I went in and put my information on there about how much exercise I was going to do, the weight expectation loss I wanted to have, the muscle mass gain. And then I can go in and figure out, here's my genetic activity metabolic rate, which you can go in and set your own based off of your activity need. I've got my calorie split, so it tells me that I should be eating 2 meals a day, and my first meal should be 1,040 calories, and my second meal should be 693 calories. Now, that could be either breakfast, lunch, or lunch, dinner. And right now I'm doing breakfast and lunch. So I'm doing 1,040 calories for breakfast and 690 calories for lunch. And I'm fasting for my dinner. It can also break down your macros, and it can tell you your carbs, your saturated fat, your unsaturated fats. It explains what they are, the intake of them. This is really the big one, is most people are not getting anywhere near enough protein that their body needs for cellular and genetic repair. It talks about unsaturated fats, saturated fats. You can get a ton of info on your macros from that. So the days of having to work with a personalized nutritionalist, even a personal trainer, which you still can, but now you've got all that information literally on your app. We can even, based off of your genetics and the recommendations that you're the results you're trying to get, recommendations for other nutrients can be on here and when to take them. For example, here's a B vitamin called pantothenic acid, which should be taken 200 milligrams in the morning fasting. My vitamin C should be in the morning fasting. My beta carotene should be in the morning with the meal. I mean, it just goes through and gives you a layout of what supplements your body needs based off of your genetic expression. And some of these can be tweaked and changed based off of your own wants, desires, and needs, but it's very straightforward. And if you look at the bottom left, we also put in an API system in here that we can also API in so that people can order personalized meal plans, supplements, and vitamins. And that's all coming very soon. You can also go and look at your results, which is at the bottom, or the bottom, look at the right where there's the light bulb. Those are your insights. Your insights, you can go over all of these different categories. So you've got your anti-aging, your health, your gut, your heart health, your immunity, your injury risk, mental health, muscle health, skin health, sleep, and stress. And if you're interested in any of these, you click on them. So for example, let's say I'm interested in my injury risk. So I click on my injury risk. It shows me what genes were measured. So risk for low back pain, bone and joint issues, Achilles issues, knee injuries, and how your body handles rehab. So like, for example, if you look at Achilles and knee, those are really high for me. And if I click on the Achilles, it says, here's the gene that was measured. It says, here's the risk based off of that gene. Here are risk factors. Here's what the results means. Here's your recommendations. And oh, by the way, if I go to my DNA exercise program, it shows exercises that I can use and do in order to mitigate the risk of me having Achilles injury issues. You can also click right here on the where it says Achilles tendon risk, and it shows low back risk, bone and joint. My other one was a knee injury risk. So here are the genes that were measured. Here are the potential issues that could come up. And then it talks about here's recommendations that you should do. And then also there are exercises built in to the rehab section. So we've thought of everything that you could possibly need. I mean, here's another example. If you look at mental health, it measures the genes of attention span. It measures the genes of being addictive to things like a workaholic. Like I am dead red, predisposed to being a workaholic or a holic of anything. That means I'm more risk. This is a dopamine gene. That means I'm at more risk for ADD, ADHD, addictions to sex, drugs, rock and roll, and all these other kinds of things that are out there. And here's the data that shows what I can do based off of my lifestyle to mitigate my risk for those issues. There's another one here for muscle health. There's another one here for skin health. I mean, this is very, very detailed. 800,000 different genetic components were measured, and we're only reporting on 350 of them. And as more information comes out about your genes that we can report on, you're going to get push notifications and etc. Look at this one. We know that sleep is a major issue, and most people aren't getting enough sleep. So this talks about how much sleep someone should have. Does caffeine affect your sleep? Like if you look at the very bottom, caffeine does not affect my sleep. So I can have caffeine in the morning. I can have it midday and even in the evening, and it doesn't affect that. But if you're over here and you have a risk or even a high risk, caffeine you have in the morning, coffee for breakfast, could be causing a lot of your mental stresses, emotional stresses, and sleep issues all day long. Talks about risk for narcolepsy, fragmented sleep, duration of sleep. Look at this. So it measures these particular genes. And it talks about in here, it says studies indicate that you share similar genetic variant with users that have shown that need longer sleep duration. So I am in that group of people that needs that 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day, as opposed to that 6 to 7 hours of sleep that most people are getting. One of the genes that we measure is called the clock gene. So if you now know that you should be getting a certain number of amount of sleep and sleep duration, you can now adjust your lifestyle based off of that. Now, if I go back to the home page, you see that there's a lifestyle tracker that's on here as well. We can track steps and sleep and activity and heart rate and water intake and calories. We can also, if you go to the home page, we can also look at your genetic action plan. There are certain answers of questions that you're supposed to answer. It gives you some things that you should do from a diet standpoint, which is this right here. It talks about your physical health here. It talks about certain vitamins that you might need here. And it gives you an overview of your overall health. Now, back on the home page, you can have a I put on here also air quality as well. You have to enable location services for us to do this, but we can measure your air quality on this in addition to everything else. Also, if you click the top left-hand corner where the three little lines are, you can change your profile. You can enter your kit information for your DNA test kit. You can download your report. You can download your raw data. You can log out. Because if you have, let's say, a family member of 5 or 6 family members of children, or your spouse, and they all want to keep it on one app, you can just have different usernames and passwords for individuals to use. So I'll tell you that this app is one of the most powerful tools that you can have access to. This is truly the gateway of giving you the map, the keys in the car of how to drive your life and your health to where you want it to be. And take your time, go through this, watch the videos that we've done on the results, start putting this into place, and change the responses. As you lose weight, change that. As you change your sleeping patterns, change the questionnaire, because that will help us, and the AI will get even tighter on the results that you're supposed to overcome. So folks, this is a powerful, powerful tool. If you've not had this test done, you can go to biolimitless.com. That's biolimitless.com, and learn more about where you can purchase this test, or get with the person who introduced this to you. They'll give you a link that you can use to get that test, so that you and your entire family can have this information. And folks, this is a one and done test. As we get more and more information that comes through, we're going to be able to get more precise with the results that we have, more precise with the recommendations we have. And as more and more data comes out on the 800,000 SNPs that we're measuring, it's going to be able to really give you the map, the keys in the car of things that are newer. For example, there's a gene that we've just now been discussing over the last few weeks. It's called the PEMT gene. And I'm finding people that have this gene, they're the reasons why they're having hypertension and fatty, non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, and all the high cholesterols and things that go with that. And I'm finding most of my patients that have liver disease have that PEMT gene. And the more and more information that we're gathering from the scientific global collective, the more we can get precise with you and your friends and family on this test. And if you're a physician using this in your office, I know that the results that you're getting from this are powerful, because now you've got a way to help hold your patients accountable for their daily actions, for their diet and lifestyle, for their exercises, and for their requirements for their supplements. So folks, go back, rewatch this video. This is one of many that we're going to continue to put out about the power of the BioLimitless.life app. Folks, until we meet again, I'm Dr. Eric Nepute. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. Stay smart out there, and I'll see you next time. Be well.